All right. How are we doing? Can you guys hear me? Very good. All right. Let's get started. Okay, so let me just exit that. This. So last time we left off, we had just finished making a post. We need to add in the user actions bar, and then we need to fix up the tags, but we'll get to that in a bit. So let's start with the action bar. So I know Kevin wanted us to use hero icons, which are a fantastic set of icons that are free and very easy to use. So I'm going to walk you through using plugins on Figma first. So let's go here. And so if you're on the desktop version, just hit home. Oh. Jumping a step. Then you'll be able to see your homepage from there. From there, you'll click Community. And then you'll hit the search bar and you'll just type in Hero Icons. Hit the Plugins tab and you'll be able to see the plugin. So Hero Icons, you don't need to use the plugin to get them. You can just go to their site and download them from there. However, getting used to plugins on Figma will help speed up your workflow, and that's always a good thing. So you should be able to hit the install button right there, and then once you've done that, you'll be able to go to your project, hit the Figma main menu button in the top left, go down to plugins, and then it should be the only thing there for you guys. I have quite a few extras, but it'll just say Hero Icons, and you can just click that. And now we have all of our icons to choose from. So let's see what we need. So I'm not sure what this heartbeat thing is for, but it does seem like we have comments and favorites. I assume it's like a thumbs up kind of thing. And we also have a share button. So that gives us 4 options, and we can always add more later. So let's go with that. Let's start with a like button. Open our main card, go to interactions, and then let's type in thumbs up. You can just click it once and it'll import it immediately. Oh, this is gonna suck. Okay, so Figma's a little weird about this, and you'll see this happen a few times. The vector is fine. You can see it's fine here in the plugin. However, sometimes Figma, when it's on your project, it does act a little funky there. I'm not sure if that's something they know about, but it does happen. It's fine. When you go and import the vector into your React app, it won't have that issue. So don't worry about that for now. We'll just deal with it. So we want to keep a 24 by 24 view box. So let's actually see what we can do here. We can make it smaller for now, that's fine. Let's go ahead and click the Constraint Proportions button. And then let's make it just a little bit smaller. That's too much. Let's go with 20 for now. And let's see if I can change the stroke. So the stroke is actually 2, and you can feel free to change that to 1, which might be a little too thin. Actually, no, that's fine. We can go with 1 stroke, or 1 pixel stroke. Let's go ahead, grab that, thumbs up outline, let's position that correctly. So I'm just going to put a stroke for now. So this is going to be our interactions bar. And we will keep all of our interactions here. So let's position it with 16 pixels of padding on the left, just as we did with the tags, and just as we did with the text. Still looks a little big, so I'm going to try to make it 16 for now. And we can always adjust it later, and you'll see why. So let's go with that, and then let's get a comment, maybe message bubble. Ah, they don't seem to have that. Let's manually search for it. Oh, there's this. That could work. Let's see if there's anything else. No, it doesn't seem like they have anything else. And also, you're not limited to hero icons. There's plenty of free icons on the internet that you can use. There's plenty of free icon plugins. I prefer to use Iconify because it's got pretty much all of them bunched into one plugin, and it'll search through all of them for what you want. Feather icons are extremely pretty. Material design icons are very nice as well, and I know Kevin prefers those. But we're going to stick with hero icons for now. Feel free to use whatever you want. So let's just go with the, where was it? Let's go with this chat outline. Chat alt 2. Yeah, let's go with this one. It's simple. It's nice. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to constrain proportions 16. And we're going to change the stroke by going onto the vector item and changing the stroke to 1. So we're going to just drag it down. We'll give it, yeah, we can give it 16. Oh, that's kind of weird. Let's do 12 for now. Let's get rid of this stroke as well. And then what else did we have? We had a favorites button, and then we also had a share button. So let's go ahead and let's type in heart and see what they got. You'll notice I'm clicking the outlined icons. These are, in my opinion, more pleasing to the eye. You can feel free to use the filled in ones, however, then that causes two issues. So, for example, if someone clicks the heart and they favorited a post, we want to show that they favorited a post. So we can do that by either changing the selection color to a different color. So for example, red, or we can have it filled in. So we can change this fill color to red. Oh, no, that's not gonna work. This fill color to red. And you'll see that that becomes solid. So you want to be consistent. So if we choose outlined icons, we want to stick with outlined icons and merely change the color when a user interacts with the icon or the button. Or if we go solid, you can do from outline to solid, and that's also totally fine. It just depends on what you want to do for your app, and you want to stay consistent. So we're going to stay with the outline. So let's just set that back to normal. And then we're going to click on the vector icon, the vector item, change it to 1 stroke, constrain proportions, so it's 16. And we're just going to drag that over here. And then we had one more button. And it is the share button. So let's go with that. Let's see if there's a share button. So share. Okay. That's a little different than what we saw, but that'll work. Let's go ahead and click that. And let's do constrain 16. Click on our vector icon and do 1 pixel stroke. And then you can exit out the plugin because we won't need that for a bit. So the share icon actually went all the way to the right. So let's drag that over. And we want 16 pixels of padding because that's what we're going with for now. And they also, I believe, they had words. So this is always good to have because sometimes users won't know what a certain icon means. So for example, here, I didn't know what this little heartbeat graph meant. We can assume that's a thumbs up kind of button since there's a favorite button here, but usually it's good to like either write down what it means or have a number of some kind. If it's a thumbs up, people can generally assume because they've used other social media apps. But if it's something that users aren't quite familiar with, you'd want to write down what it means or have some sort of indicator. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add a little share text for now. So let's add a little text here. Share. All right. We'll change the colors in a bit, so don't worry about that yet. So we want a favorite and we want 2 numbers for our thumbs up in our chats. Let's do right here and let's say favorite. I'm not from England or the UK, so I'm not going to use a U. Let's move that over. And then let's do it again. So we'll shift these over. And remember, I'm selecting multiple items by clicking one. And then you can either use Control on the Layers panel, or you can just click one and then hold down Shift, and then click another. Let's click back here. Let's hit Text, and let's hit, well, they didn't have comments, so let's do 5 comments. And I think we might have to make this text a little less large because it's kind of too big in comparison. This is 12, this is 12, okay. We'll see. So let's grab this, drag them over. And then let's give this one a number as well. 9, okay. So we have the basics of an interaction bar. So let's change up the colors a little bit because the black is way too harsh. So John's asking what framework we're using. This is actually a program called Figma. You can use it for free, and if you have a education email, so like an EDU, you can get, I believe, the second plan for free, which lets you use a bunch more options. It lets you have projects with multiple people and several of them. Figma is a really useful tool. Adobe XD used to be the main kind of program, and I know InVision was also used a lot. Figma is much cheaper and has a lot more features slowly coming out. Adobe XD has its own features, but Figma is also catching or gaining traction. And I've noticed it on a lot of my job applications, like, have you used Figma? Have you used Adobe XD? So for anyone who's going into UI, you want to have some experience here because it'll give you that much of an edge. So let's go ahead and change these colors a bit. Oh, also, John, you can use Figma on the browser or you can use it on the desktop. The browser's a little slower, obviously, because it's a browser app, but that's totally fine. It still gives you, I believe, all the same capabilities as a desktop app. The thumbs up does look like a bandaged hand. That is true. Again, it won't look like that when we use this icon in our React app. It's just Figma sometimes has issues. Don't worry about it for now. All right, let's go ahead and select everything here. So all that, and I'm going to change these selection colors. And we're going to choose from our color styles that we learned last time. So remember to click the style icon, which is the 4 dots, and it'll bring up all of our previous styles. And you can change that from grid view to list view. So let's go text gray. Yeah, that's fine. And then when a user, for example, favorites it, we can have that as our primary color. We should also change the number to match that. Not too shabby. It could definitely use some work, but not too shabby. So let's compare it to our inspiration. So we'll notice that the text is smaller than the icon, so we should adjust to that correctly. And the text is they're small as well. So let's make some changes here. Let's make this 11 pixels real quick. And let's space it evenly. And remember, you can hold down Alt when you have an item selected, and it'll show you the distance and the spacing to other items that you hover over. And those red lines are called style guides. So that's a little nicer. Let's go ahead and check this. You don't usually have to worry about getting fonts pixel perfect. Just focus on getting the overall idea, because details can always come later. Let's get that down. Let's get that down. All right. So it's not too bad. But the spacing's a little weird. It's kind of funny. So I'm going to sidetrack us onto a different section. I'm going to lecture us a little bit about groups versus frames. So here I've set up two, what's the word for them? I'm going to be sections. Well, I've set up a group and a frame. So you'll notice that when you have a frame or you have a group, you can swap them between the two. You can also swap them between the different default options that Figma provides, but that gives you an easy way to like swap something if you realize you didn't actually want a group. Even though there are shortcuts for that. So for example, the group shortcut is Control-G. I forgot what the frame shortcut is, but I know you can use F to just create a new frame. So let's go over two things. So groups are different from frames because they're dependent on their child elements. So a group will automatically adjust its bounds if the child elements are resized or repositioned, because that's their determining factor. The bounds are determined by the child elements. So if I go ahead and I try to make this larger, you'll notice that all the child elements are also affected. Or if I try to move this rectangle, you'll notice that the group has actually gotten bigger. Versus with the frame, I can make the frame smaller, bigger, whatever. It won't affect the child element size. It'll affect their position, but it won't affect their size. And you'll notice that they're all hugging the left corner. That's because they're all constrained to the top and to the left. And you can change that, so I can always say bottom, right, and if I make this bigger, it'll always hug the bottom right as much as it can from its original position. But I've moved the bottom right, you'll notice it also moves. So frames are not child element dependent, versus groups are. I'd like to make a note that certain things in groups don't scale, like effects, strokes, and font sizes. Those don't scale if you just happen to do this. But if you press K, you'll notice this icon switch to the scale tool, and then it'll adjust your fonts and stuff accordingly. I can actually show that here. Blah, 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 blah. I'll just drag that into the group. And then if I select the group and I try to make it larger, you'll notice the text stays way too small. But if I use the scale tool and then I try to make it bigger, the text will... it does grow. Yes, okay, I'm not going crazy. So the text will grow if you use the scale tool. So that's just something to know with groups. And then also, so again, frames are kind of like windows into the items it holds. It doesn't affect the items unless you're using the scale tool. It doesn't affect the items, it just affects what you're seeing. Kind of like a mask, if you remember those from last time. And then also, frames are different from groups because we get the option of a layout grid. And so there's a couple different layout grids you can do. You can do an actual grid, which just draws style guides repeating over and over. Or you can do, there we go. you can select the grid and select its icon, and then you'll have a couple of different options here. You can have columns, and you can have rows. Let me just get rid of that one. This is useful if you're trying to like lay out items and like see where they're going. You can change the gutter and other positions that'll increase the spacing between the layouts. It's good if you're trying to make something look well, just cleaned up. Like if you want a mosaic, but you want it nicely cleaned up, you would use grids. So those get pretty useful, and you can combine them by having multiple grids. So I can have a column here, and I can have a row, and it'll just stay with me the entire time. And so those can get pretty useful. You won't be using them much in the beginning because you don't really need to. But as you like get into Figma, you'll notice, okay, this can be kind of useful. It's got its use cases. And then also, if you notice on the right side, there's something called auto layout. So that's really useful. And it shows up on both groups and frames. So let me just show you what that does. So if I click plus on it and I create an auto layout, notice it automatically grabs everything and shoves it to the top. And that's because the constraint is at the top left right now. And you can notice I can add padding, I can add a lot of padding to all the edges, or I can just keep it as default. This one is padding around the items, so if I increase this, every item, not every item, sorry, all the child elements will like act as their own group, and they'll get padding around it. Kind of like a margin, but let me go back here. There we go. There's also the spacing between the items, so that's probably going to be the most useful, and we'll see that in about a minute. And then there's also this option, so you can have vertical or you can go horizontal. So depending on whether, say you're making like the Instagram feed, you'd want it to be horizontal, or if you're making like a horizontal slideshow, you'd want it to be, well, horizontal. And you'll notice that the group actually changed to a frame. This is because, especially when you're prototyping in Figma, frames are how you clip content. So say I turn this on. So I turn on clip content, and then I had multiple rectangles, right? So let's grab the frame. Let's make it a little smaller. And you'll notice that clip content says, hey, if anything's outside these boundaries, I don't want to see it. Versus when it's on, you can see it. This is useful because when you start prototyping, thank you Figma, you can have overflow scrolling. So I can select horizontal scrolling, and when I'm on the prototyping, which we'll do probably on Friday, it'll let me scroll through all these objects. And it also changed the icon for, so it's easier to know, like, hey, I have an auto layout here. Okay, now that we've touched on layouts, let's go back. And let's try to just like do that here. So let's grab, well, first we're going to have to grab all of these and group them. So this will be the likes. We're going to group that using Control G, and that will be our comments. I'm just going to drag that down. So we're going to grab the hearts. So, no, yeah, that should stay as favorite. So, this should be the word favorite because other users don't need to know that you favorited it, not on this page anyway. This is for you to know if you favorited it and saved it like your bookmarks or something. So let's grab those two, Control G to make a group, and let's say favorite. And then one more time, let's do it with here, Control G to group, and then let's title it share. Okay, so we're going to grab these. We won't do share because it's all the way on the right, but we're going to group them. And what we can do here is we can hit auto layout, and then we can, from there, using the spacing between items option, we can easily adjust like, hey, how much spacing do you want? And this comes in really useful when you have for example, like a larger device, like an iPad, you might want more spacing between these for an iPad versus a iPhone. It all depends on what you want, but this comes in handy because it just, you don't have to manually increment the spacing. You can just like say, hey, I want all these items, all these photos, whatever, to have this much spacing. And we should also do this for our tags. So we'll do that in just a second. Let's say we want 20 spacing between each item. And then we're good there. So let's also change the tags. Let's grab all these. We'll grab the show more as well. We'll hit Control G to group it. And then we'll add an auto layout. And you'll notice that it moved the show more to the top because that's how our constraint works. So let's actually just, let's have it hug the left, but stay in the center because we want the text to be centered. And from there, again, we can have our padding, or sorry, our spacing between items be whatever we want. So if we wanted to, for example, go all the way and cover the whole tag bar, we can do that. I would say let's keep it a little less. Let's go with 10 spacing, because that looks a little nicer. Obviously, make sure to rename because they don't do names for you. So let's say this is the tag bar layout. You can just say tags layout. Let's also do that for the interactions. So this should be interactions layout. Also something to know about Figma general guidelines, because there's no set standard. Figma prefers to name their items with spaces, so capitalize the first letter and then just put spaces for the rest. When you're doing coding, it's preferred to do something along the lines of this. So like we'd have button dash text. We wouldn't have the space there. But that's how you do it in code. Or you could do camel casing. That's more for like methods and functions. But since we're on Figma, let's change that to button text. I'm going to leave the image there because we're going to get rid of that soon enough. So that is the basics of a post. It looks a little funky, and we'll get to that later. So let me make sure. It's a little dark. I would prefer to change it just a bit. Yeah. Yeah, that looks a little nicer. Because remember, black causes strain on the eyes. It's harder to look at for longer periods of time versus like a lighter black, so like a dark gray is much easier to see and it doesn't strain your eyes as much. So, alright, so that's the basics of a post. Now let's try something a little different. So I have the image of the dribble inspiration here, and usually you won't need to do this, but for our case here, since we want to kind of copy it, quote quote, I'm going to drag this down. Nope, drag it down. And then I'm going to hit on my keypad any of the numbers. So another shortcut with Figma is if you hit like 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, it'll set the opacity. So if I do 1.4, well, 7.4, it'll change the opacity there. And you won't see it on the fill, it'll just affect the layer itself. So I'm going to change it to 50, and I'm going to try to overlay it. So let's move it. Okay. That's a little funky, but you'll notice that we have a little bit of difference here. We have more spacing than they do over here. We don't have their YouTube. Their title is much larger than ours. And then they've got a little bit of difference. Their tags are much larger than ours. Their overall post is larger than ours, so we can actually give ourselves more real estate. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's move this back out of the frame. And then let's give it, if we hit 0, it'll set its opacity back to 100%. So let's go back here and let's click on the frame. And if we hit clip content, as you learned earlier, we'll be able to see stuff that usually would be cut by the boundaries. So let's go ahead and let's make this main card a little bit bigger. Oh yeah, I remember. Our background was pink, so we could tell when the frame was larger than what we had put in. So let's go ahead and change a few things here. So interactions, let's drag that down by, say, 30. And again, I moved it by holding down Shift and then using the down arrows. So that'll shift it down by 10 pixels versus just using the arrows, we'll shift it down by 1 pixel. Let's grab these tags and let's shift it down. But we actually want our tags to be bigger. So this is about 90. Ooh, actually, no, that's fine. Okay. Let's change the height to about, what's our interactions bar at? 30. Let's change this one also to 30. So let's grab the tags and let's just shift it up a little bit. So again, oh, no, we're good. Okay, so let's grab our layout. Show all of our items. And let's constrain, let's do a height of 20. See what that does. Oh no. Yeah. That's a little better. Okay. And let's grab the text within each one. So let's open all these up. Grab that, that, and that. Let's change the text to 11 might be a bit much. No, let's keep it and see what we can do. So we're going to make this a little bigger and we're going to have it centered. That's a little better. Maybe we could even go with 12. Let's see. Yeah, let's go with 12. And let's grab this and let's do the same thing. This is when I had variants, but there's too many options here to have a variant, so we're gonna have to manually change these for now. And then center it. And there we go, that's a little nicer. Oh, we need to fix the padding though. So let's go ahead, collapse these so we have a nicer view of the layers panel. Let's grab that, select the layers, or sorry, the layout. Let's see the padding. So you'll notice that it's 2 on the top and 8 on the bottom, so let's just scoot it down. 1 more, 5 and 5, nice, okay. And it's 16 there. That's a little nicer, it's a little more spacious. We should change the show more to match the rest of the text, so we change everything to 12. Let's try 12. I do like the 12, however, because we're doing 11 on the interactions bar, let's go with 11. Which is rather unfortunate because I do like the 12. 12. 12. Oh, wait, sorry. 11, not 12. Oh, they are 11. No, this one's not 11. Okay. Alright. Not bad. And then let's so that needs to be scooted down. So let's do hang on. There we go. All right. So we've got padding 7, which is a little funky, but that's okay. What about here? We have also got 7, and we need to fix that. And now we got a padding 16 on the right side. So again, that's the basics. Let's fix this show more to match a nicer color. Let's do text gray, just so we're consistent with anything the user, with anything that's not changing often. It's like the post itself. People can do all sorts of posts. They can have whatever text, whatever photos, versus the interaction bars should always be the same, minus the, tags. So we should keep those as like a light gray. Okay, so let's just scoot this down a bit too. Actually, we can just scoot this up. So select those two and scoot them up. And then let's adjust by selecting our main card and going back. All right. And then just because it's a little hard to see, I'm going to go ahead and change the background again. Let's get rid of that. Let's hit fill. Let's do a not so terrible color. There we go. Okay, so we can see that main feed takes up a lot of our page. It's got its rounded corners. And if we want, we can even add a shadow to it later. But that's the basics of the main feed. So, not bad. What else can we do? No, they don't have that much space on their tags, so maybe we should also do the same. Yeah, let's fix these because they shouldn't be like that. Okay, so I had a rectangle and then I had the tag name. So let's actually get rid of the rectangle. And then select the sunset and let's add a stroke to it. No, that's not going to be happy. Okay, hang on. So we have sunset. It's got a color primary. Huh, interesting. Okay. What if I change that? Interesting. I wonder why it's doing that. One inside. Stroke. Some inside. Ah, okay, it's because I had a group. So remember, groups are focused on their child elements. Frames are independent of the child elements. So that's why it was being funky. So, okay, so now that we have our stroke, let's go ahead and give it the primary color. We want to round it by, what did we have? 12 rounding. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, inside. We want to give it a height of, what was it, 20? No. I want the width. No, I won't. text to be centered, and I want it to hug the center as well. Let's get rid of this. Let's go back to the text. Get rid of that stroke. Make sure everything's good. Yeah, so when we resize it, it'll stay in the center because we have the constraints right here on the text set to center. And I currently have the size of the text set to 80 by 13, and that's because I gave it a fixed size right here. So we can go ahead and change that to auto height or to auto width. I'm going to keep it as auto width for now. I think that's fine. Yeah, so I'm going to get rid of these, and I'm just going to duplicate the sunset. So remember, what we had previously was a group of a rectangle, and then the text. Now we have just a frame that has text inside it, and the stroke is on the frame itself. And then we can just duplicate these, and they'll automatically fill in the layout. Very nice. Okay. Let me do that a little less. Again, it doesn't have to be pixel perfect. I'm just showing you that it can be. And usually the show more wouldn't get cut off, but we can handle that in our code. We don't have to show that here. So there we go. I think we're good. If anything, I would like to add a little bit of padding down here. So we can just do that manually. So interactions, we have 7 pixels of spacing. So we can just scoot it up too. Because notice with the tags, let me just show you. We have 5 pixels of spacing on each side. So we can mimic that here, but we'll give 5 to the top and we'll keep extra on the bottom, because remember, having extra spacing on the bottom, when it's the ending card, just looks nicer. It's like a nice border. We can also do that here. So scoot it up by 2. Yeah, I would even give it more spacing, honestly. So how much spacing do we have right now? We have 9. So let's try to match the 16. So let's just give 7. And our frame is going to clip the content. So let's just move it manually. Doop. There is a way for it to auto adjust. I can't recall at the moment how, but that's fine. Yeah. It does look a little funky, doesn't it, though? They didn't seem to do that. So maybe let's not go with that for now. We can keep it as the I'm getting worked up over nothing. Don't worry about the pixels for now. Getting the general idea is the best part. Okay, so that is our main feed. Very good. Let's see what else we can do. So we have a couple of things that are different. We don't have a logo. We don't have the aside card, and we don't have the navigation bar. Okay, so let's do a actually, no, I'm just noticing our green is very bright in comparison to theirs. So if I actually hit I, that's the eyedropper tool, I can hover over their color and it'll tell me what it is. So it says in the corner 36B, whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the primary. Let me hit escape. select the primary, hit the Edit Styles button. I'm going to grab our color and hit the Eyedropper tool, or you can use the shortcut of I. Go ahead and click that color, and it'll just grab the hex value for you. So if we go back to our page, you'll notice it's automatically handled for us. It looks very nice. Hey, very nice, yeah. Because the previous screen we had was kind of rather bright for most users, and even this color, while it is very nice, it might cause issues. And we can tell if it's causing issues by using a contrast checker. So let's go ahead and click primary, hit edit style, and let's grab that hex value. And then we're going to go to this site. So you can go to WebAIM by just literally typing in WebAIM. And then you're going to hit the contrast checker. And then this is, I believe I touched on it last time, but this is really good if you want to be A11Y compliant. And just generally be more accommodating to any older users or users with sensitive eyes. So what we can do is we can drop that hex value here. Ooh. Okay, so it didn't like that. Let's swap that back, and it still doesn't like it. We wouldn't really have text as this color besides for the... No, we do have text as that color. Okay, so it thinks it's not very good of a color to use, and we can change that by adjusting the lightness. So the farther up we go, the more it's going to be unhappy. The farther down we go, the more it'll like us. But obviously you're sacrificing some of your palette for that accessibility color. So I don't think it matters too much here. If you would like to be A11Y compliant for your project, for practice, go for it. Definitely use contrast checker. WebAIM has a couple of different studies and answers on why this matters. For now, I'm just going to stick with the color that we got from the Dribble inspiration because it looks nice. It's a solid color. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's change this color to be the background color. And then let's go ahead. Actually, no, just to be cool about it. Let's see what it would look like with another main bar, your main card. So I'm just extending the height here just so you can see. And we'll dabble in prototyping now. So I'm going to hit the prototype tab, and I'm going to do flow starting point. And it'll automatically guess that the frame I'm on is what it wants to start on. So this means that whenever you start your prototype viewing, it'll start on this page. So I'm going to hit the play button, and it'll open a new tab. And we should be able to see what we've created. Doesn't seem to recognize the other card yet. I wonder why. Oh, it's because it's not in there. There we go. Now we can scroll up and down. You'll notice that the action bar doesn't move with us. And so there's a couple of ways we can fix that. So let's go back to our page. Let's move the frame up. And what was it? We're at 1280 by 720. And then remember, I unchecked clip content, and that's the reason we can see this other post, even though it's outside of the borders of this frame. So we can go back, we can go to our prototype. We can grab these two, let's group them. Let's go to design and change it from a group to a frame. And then when we go to prototype, you'll notice that overflow scrolling is now available for us to click on. So we can hit that and we can do vertical scrolling. And now when we go to page, oh no, it didn't work. Oh, I know why. Okay, so this frame also needs to have... Okay, so how the overflow scrolling works is if there's more items than you can see in this frame. So for example, if I uncheck clip content, you'll see there's more items in this frame than there should be. So then we have to make sure the frames are proper size and there's extra items outside. We go to prototype, and the word overflow means if there's extra, what do you want to do with that extra? And in this case, we want to have vertical scrolling. So now, when we go to our prototype, I can click and drag, or I can scroll, and it'll automatically say, hey, this is how the user wants it to look. Which is pretty freaking cool. I think that's a fantastic feature because it shows how you might actually want it in React or in your actual production. You'll notice that the action bar is kind of getting overlaid, which shouldn't happen. So let's change this to main feed items. Let's drag the application bar on top. And then what we want to do, let me see where it is. Okay, so select your application bar and select fixed position when scrolling. And you'll notice it changes the layers panel a bit. And this just lets the prototype tool know, like, hey, whatever happens, keep this item where the user has positioned it. So now when we go back to our prototype, you'll notice it stays in the same position. And that kind of looks like a website already, honestly. Like, it functions how a normal website should. Alright, so let's start with the... Yeah, let's go with the navigation tab. Alright, I'm going to exit out of the prototyping tool. Yeah. So we want a feed, trending, recent top, discussions, library labor. Alright. I'm definitely not going to remember that, so I'm just going to make a quick note, say feed, and then let me change this to align on the left. So trending, recent, top, discussions, library, favorites. All right, we might want to fix. We might want to fix that when we actually do create this app because we don't really need a leaderboard. We don't really need a library. Actually, maybe we do. Maybe we do want a library. But for now, we're just gonna go with it. Remember, Control zooms in and out, Shift is left and right, and then Alt is down and up, or up and down. Okay, so let's make the nav bar. Whatever it's supposed to be called, I don't know. Let's give ourselves... Let's give ourselves 120 padding from the left. Let's give ourselves 20. Oh, nice. 20 from there. So this is 10. So let's also match the padding on top. Alright, that looks nicer. So let's call this frame navigation. Let's give it a fill of surface, because remember, background is the actual background of your, whatever you want to call your product, your page, your website. And then these cards, these action bars, these are all surfaces that are on top of your background. And they should have a different color than the background, unless you have a specific reason for it. So let's go ahead. This is... These main cards are rounded by 4. So let's go ahead and match that for now. I know in their navigation they have it like invisible color, so maybe we should actually do that too. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's go with that. Let's do an invisible color. So we'll get rid of surface. We'll get rid of the rounding. We don't gotta worry about that. And then we're going to add in text. So what we had before was feed, trending, recent, and top. So feed. Let's just drag that up here. It's getting a little hard to see the frame, so let's do a stroke for now, just so we can see it. And I'll make that red so it doesn't, so we don't forget. So that looks a little bit small, so let's see how big this is. So this text is 14, so let's try 14 for now and see how that looks. I think we might have to go a little bigger. Well, actually, I think that could work. Okay, so feed and then trending recent top. So let's duplicate it. Let's give it 10 pixels of difference now, and then let's just duplicate it again and again. And then you can change it to whatever you want, but I'll do that in just a second. Let's use what we learned. Let's do a layout for now. So let's grab all these. And we can do a layout. So let's do auto layout. It automatically knows the spacing is 10 because it configured out itself. We can even add padding, which we don't need to do quite yet. The constraints are fine. Let's keep it like that. Yeah, let's go with that. So navigation layout. Okay. So let's feed, trending, recent, top. Discussions, library, leaderboard, and then favorites. We can just get rid of that last one. Okay. So that's a start, but we do need our icons because it just makes it look that much nicer. So let's go ahead, let's go back to our plugins. Let's hit hero icons. So what did they do for feed? They did a home button. For discussions, they did a chat bubble, and for library, they did. Okay. Let's start with that then. So for feed, let's do a house or home. So again, it's going to have some issues in Figma, but, and I can prove this to you right now. If I right click and I do copy as SVG, I can go back to Safari, and there's something called SVG OMG. It's an online tool that, like, well, it optimizes your SVG files. So if I paste the markup and I just place the SVG there, oh no, it still does do it. Interesting. Okay, well, if I go to hero icons, then I'm going to type in home. And we can see the house does not have those funky lines. So let's copy SVG. Let's go back to Figma. Let's place it down. You'll notice it also has lines. So it's not an issue with the SVGs themselves. It's just like online tools. So Figma, SVG OMG, other tools will have those issues, but the SVG itself won't have those issues when you're using them in your code because, well, let's see why. So let's open up Notepad. And let's paste the SVG. So this is what an SVG is. It's got its tag and then it's got a path inside of it. Don't worry about that. The class, it's saying that it's a height and width of 6. It's not filled with the color, so that's why it's outlined. And then its view box is 24 by 24, which is what the standard seems to be. You can go a little bit different, but usually you'd want to keep it at 24 by 24, and that's what we'll be doing in our code. The stroke is the current color, and then you can see like the actual code for how they determine the house. And inside here, it automatically figures out, hey, don't actually fill in these lines. But Figma and SVG-OMG seem to be ignoring that. But that's okay. We don't need to worry about that. For now, we'll just go with it. So let's grab our home. And we're going to place it right here. And because we have our layout, it's going to freak out at us. That's fine. We just need to select our home, select our feed by using Shift, and then we do Control G, and that'll group it. So I'm going to rename this feed, and then I'm going to hopefully figure out why it's being funky. Alright, let's do this. Interesting, hang on. Let's select the group and let's drag it outside so it's not being bothered by the layouts rules. And so from here, let's see why it's being weird. I think we can change that. So let's go to the vector. Let's change the stroke to 1. No, that might be a little too much. We'll keep it as 2. And we'll go with it for now. So let's make sure the spacing is correct. So we can't really tell the spacing that much. That's okay. This is our item. So we'll copy that. Or actually, you can just drag it down under. So I'm going to drag it under the navigation layout. And it'll automatically show up at the bottom. We can just drag it all the way down. And it'll show up at the top. So something we should do here is we should give it a little more spacing. So I'm going to give it 10 pixels of spacing. You might be wondering, like, can you just have a layout of 2 columns? I think they're working on it. As far as I know, you can't do that just yet. You could have a layout within a layout. And by doing that, you can do it. So you could have a layout of all the columns and a layout of all the text. And we can do that if you want. But I prefer to just keep it simple and let's just have groups of the icons along with their matching text. So let's go with trending. I don't believe trending had a icon. So actually, maybe in that case, it would be better to have 2 different layouts. So, okay, that's fine. We can do 2 different layouts. And you can see how that works. So let's get rid of that. Let's take that outside. And I will ungroup that. And you ungroup a group of items by doing Control Shift and then you hit G. So I'm going to move that out of our way for now. Navigation, label, layout. This is labels. Alright. And then, what other icons did we need? We needed a chat, or bubbles, something for library, leaderboard, and favorites. Okay. So let's open up the Hero Icons plugin. Let's do discussion, chat, yeah. Let's grab that one because that one looks nice. And then let's grab, yeah, we can use that for our library as well for now. And then for the leaderboard, do we have a trophy? Ooh, actually I kind of like this better for the library. Hang on, it's getting a little messy to see, so let's just get rid of all of them. Let's go back here and let's do chat. We wanted this for our discussion. So let's move that over here. We wanted a heart for our favorites. We wanted a trophy. Ah, they didn't have trophies. Let's see what they do have. They have an earth, they have a key, they have lightning, they have fire. None of that really says trophy to me. Maybe the fire might. There are scales. Ah, megaphone. That kind of sounds like a. I guess that seems like more of a discussion. Let's go with the scales for now. I think that makes a little more sense. And then we wanted something for library. I know they have a library icon, but I do like this bookmark better. So let's go with that. And of course, choose what you want. If you want to go ahead and use Iconify, which is another great plugin, they've got a lot more options for you to choose from. So if I type in library, they have plenty of options for you to choose from. You probably have one for trophy. Yep, they have plenty for trophy. I won't go with that for now. We'll keep it simple and we'll just stick with hero icons. But again, you have tons of resources at your fingertips. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab this labels layout and we're going to duplicate it. And we're just going to scoot it over. Actually, we'll scoot one of them over. We'll grab this one and we'll delete everything inside of it. And we'll drag all of these into it instead. Oops. And luckily, because we have a layout, it will automatically handle the spacing. We just have to make sure the order is correct. So let's go ahead and feed. We're going to have extra space there, that's true. So maybe what we can do, I don't think it likes empty groups. Let's see what we can do. Hang on. I'm going to duplicate the home and I'm going to call this empty. See if I can get rid of the vector. Ah, it does stay. Awesome. Okay, so I can do that 3 times. And then let's grab the labels and let's just scoot it over a bit. 16 might be too far. Let's go 12. Yeah, that's fine. The icons are a bit big. Yeah, we can adjust for them. So let's grab the text. And we'll make the text bigger to match and we'll see how that looks. So we'll grab all these. We'll make them 16. That's pretty good, but let's try a little more. 18. I feel like that's getting a little too big. Yeah. Let's go back to 16 and stick with that for now. And then okay. So let's change it from 20 and let's go back. So again, that's a little small for what we want. So instead, let's go ahead here and let's change these from 24. And we're going to constrain the proportions because we want it to stay the same ratio. So let's go ahead and let's change that to 16. That's a little too small. Let's try 18. Better, but still a little too small. I'd say 20 is good, maybe. Well, no, let's say 24. 24 just looked the best, honestly. But now we have the spacing between the items to deal with, so obviously our text is much, well, much smaller spacing between, or the spacing between our text items are much smaller than the spacing between the items of the icons. So what we can do is we can click this layout and we can just increase the spacing. Let's do 16. It's almost good. Let's try 15. And then we also need to scoot this down. So let's do a padding of 4. That is the wrong padding because that's going to add padding to all sides. So let's go ahead and put that back to 0. And let's go over here and let's do a padding of 4 on top. That works. Yeah, we can go with that for now. I'm going to go ahead and just grab these. And I'm gonna, no. So when you're in the layout, you can't actually change the spacing or the position of the items yourself. So I'm just gonna go in manually and just add some spacing like this, which kind of looks a little funny. But it'll work for now. Let's go ahead. See. Okay. You'll see why I have issues with this in a second. So let's hit the selection colors. So remember, selection colors are all the colors found in these groups of the item you selected. So let's grab that, let's hit the style button, and let's do text gray. That's pretty faded, so we're assuming that the user's on the main page. So let's change it from text gray to text primary. We'll do that for the icon and the main thing. That's still kind of light. I feel like if we go here, it's much darker. Yeah, we can do that. So let's change all of it to instead of text gray, we'll do text primary. And then we'll go in manually and we'll select this and this. We'll do text primary dark. We'll hit this and we'll do text primary dark. The text is kind of like ignorable. I noticed with the one, so for the feed and the trending, we'll notice that they're bolded. So let's go ahead and match that as well. Feed and then trending. They're Roboto too. Okay, so I prefer Leda. If you want to do Roboto, that's fine. It's just a matter of what you want to do. And in your CSS, you can actually change which font you want to use. So let's go ahead and just grab all these. Let's go with Leda because it's going to bother me. Much nicer. Okay, so we have one more thing to do. So since we did 2 layouts, so we have a column, and then we've got our rows inside. The issue here is when you're doing your actual code, these would be grouped together. So like the home icon and the feed text, they'd be grouped. And that's because like conditional rendering, you can have the icons show up or not show up depending on how like big the device is, the viewport. Or maybe you don't want the text to show up and you just want the icons there. Usually you want to group those items together. We didn't do that, so I'm going to try something a little, we're just going to do something basic instead. Because this is a prototype, we can be a little more flexible about it. So I'm just going to drag the rectangle beneath the layouts. It's about halfway, so let's also make that fill. Let's give it a height of 40. Let's shift it down 1. Yeah, and then you saw the style guide show up, so it knows that, hey, you're in the middle. So let's change that fill, and let's go with No, let's create a new color style. Let's do selected page. No. You should give it a proper name. It's like selected, not even selected, you should have it be part of your color palette. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and say selected item. And then we'll go into that, we'll click it, we'll go to the right and we'll hit edit style. Hit the hex value, and then we'll just make it a little lighter. Or even a little darker if you want, it's up to you. In fact, I'm going to try something a little weird and let's see if it works. So I'm going to hit the eyedropper tool. I'm going to hit the primary color. And then I'm going to essentially desaturate it a lot. Oh, that didn't turn out as I hoped it would. That's okay. We'll just go with the gray. You can also change it from a solid color to like whatever you want, any sort of gradients. You can add an image. Gradients are funky. You don't want to overdo them, although they can be good. You can do a linear gradient here, so I would do it from left to right, kind of like a banner of sorts. But again, you're kind of changing the game here because gradients are very risky. A lot of people don't like them. A lot of people do like them. And especially in like modern UIs or like minimalistic UIs and stuff, you don't see gradients on houses, for example. You don't see gradients on like Facebook's main page. You see flat colors because not only is it easier for users to look at, it's just easier to handle in code as well. So let's actually just stick with a solid color. And we'll just make it a little bit lighter. And let's get rid of that stroke. So it looks nice. I would add a background though, just because it would be nicer. And let's also drag these two to the top of their thing. Okay. Let's hit the navigation frame. Let's give it. There is a way. I know there's a way to make the height automatically grab it. I guess we could just change it to a group real quick and then change it back to a frame. It does give us an issue of padding. 7. Let's just add 7 height to that, so that'd be 76. Alright, that's fine. Alright, I'm just gonna make it 280 to give us an even number. And then let's change the background to the fill. Let's give it. Because technically we should give it like a colored labeled surface. Definitely should not give it that dark of a color. Yeah, that's okay. I'm not like satisfied with it. I do like this clean look where it doesn't have any background. So maybe let's just stick with that. Let's just Control Z. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's actually look at our prototype real quick and see how it looks. If we were viewing it on like a website, for example. Not bad. The gray is a little harsh in my opinion. And we should probably round the corners as well because we rounded the corners of the main feed posts. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's give it a rounding of 4. Yeah, that's better. Trending is bolded, so we should also have something down there too. They didn't do that though, so let's just, we'll ride with it for now. Yeah, that's not bad. Selected item, edit style, hit the hex value, and let's just a little lighter. Okay, that's cool. Nice. We're reaching the end of our time. Kind of a little overboard. So let's end it there, and we can do the aside and then do a landing page next time. And then we'll do the animations as well for the prototype. And honestly, that's the basics of what we need to do. We can do a few more pages, like, hey, what does a post look like if you full screen it? How does it look like if you message someone? But I think the basics is pretty good so far. Nice job, everyone. So if anyone's got questions, drop them in the chat. Kevin should be back like next weekish, pretty much when Figma wraps up. So that's when we'll start getting into actual coding. And that's all I've got. Thanks for dropping by, and I'll see you next time.